Okay, so tonight we are going to talk about what kind of parents we are and different styles of parenting. And I am reminded of often how much people are concerned about how their children turn out and what is happening to their parents. And for about 15 years, I was the family minister here at AB Free. I would offer all kinds of seminars. You know, the seminars that were the parenting seminars that were most highly attended were the parents of preschoolers and parents of adolescents. Because at those two times in life, you're going, oh my gosh, this is critical. I need to know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. And so the same thing happened. In fact, a musical was written about it. Anybody ever listened to, watched, participated in a musical called Music Man? Hands up. Okay, a bunch of you have. Those of you that haven't, basically there's this guy called Professor Harold Hill, and he wants to sell band instruments. So he comes cruising into town, into River City, and he just is telling the parents, you know what? There's trouble right here in River City. It's got a capital T, rhymes with P, and it stands for pool, or something like that. And he just preached about the evils of the pool hall and how all their kids were going to just slide into bad things if they were in the pool hall. So his solution was to sell band instruments and create a band and a positive environment and do something constructive with their time rather than hang out at the pool hall. And so, you know, you've all heard the song 76 trombones. So at least we know he sold 76 trombones. I don't know how many clarinets and trumpets and drums he sold, but the guy made a killing. Why? Because parents, like you, are very concerned about how your kids turn out. So if I were to offer you a formula for parenting that guarantees that your children would, number one, have high self-esteem, number two, would respond appropriately to authority, number three, would pick up your Christian values and your faith, number four, they would not go with the counterculture. And I am not as clued into the counterculture today as I was a number of years ago. I remember as a high school pastor, punk bands and all that. That was the deal. Remember you guys? And we had a band here called Undercover, and their hair was out of control, and it was awesome. It was wonderful. But they were using that for good purposes. And, when I was in high school, it was long hair and smoking dope and having your VW band and, just doing, basically counterculture is everything that makes mom and dad freak out, okay? So if you want to make sure that your kids don't go that direction, what would that be worth to you? Think about that. What would that be worth to you? $100? Couple $100? Thousands. If I could guarantee you this, would you just sell your house, use the money, and go, the house doesn't matter. How my kids turn out is the most important thing. Absolutely. Me too. Well, the reality is I cannot guarantee that. There are no guarantees how your children will turn out. But how we parent them makes a huge difference in how they turn out. So let's ask, what type of parent are you? So the first question I have is, what kind of parent are you naturally? And if you have kind of been watching your children with these different personality types, the lion, the otter, the beaver, the retriever, you probably are beginning to identify with one of those personality types too. So just naturally, the way you're wired, we heard Mark say he's a beaver, right? No, Jennifer's a beaver. You're both beavers. And okay, so if you're a lion parent, you're going to be a take charge parent, a get it done. You're going to be a strong leader. That's the type of parent you're going to be. How many of you think you had lion parents yourselves? Okay. you had lion parents because they meant you were going to do it their way. And secondly, what about an otter parent? What do you think an otter parent is like? A lot of fun. It's got to be fun, and forget the chores and the list. We're just going to hang out together and have a good time. And hey, it doesn't matter if there's disaster in the house, as long as we're having a good time. That is what is important. And often otter parents want their children to be their best friends. And then you run into a little trouble there, right? Beaver parents. Beaver parents want things done right. They want order. They want systems. They want that kind of, you're laughing. You relate? Okay. Because we all kind of get it. We know. We know our preferences because of the way we're wired. And a golden retriever parent, oh, so nurturing and so kind and so thoughtful. And, you know, so what kind of parent are you naturally? And if you're a lion or if you're a beaver, you probably are more task-oriented parents, and it's important to get things done right. If you are an otter or if you're a golden retriever, you're more relationally driven. And how's that?
What if you're on each side?
What if you're on each side?
Yeah.
Then you're the perfect balance.
Oh,
It's awesome, isn't it? Yes. Kids are going to love you. But okay, so that's just kind of a starting point. Thinking about how you are wired. Secondly, the other thing that influences how we parent is that most of us parent either in response to or in reaction to the way that we were parented. Response means, you know what, my parents did a pretty good job, and I want to do this too. So that's the way I'm going to raise my kids. That's the way I'm going to parent them. That's the way I'm going to run my household. That's the way I'm going to share my expectations. The other side is in reaction to. Sometimes our parents didn't do such a great job in some areas, maybe some more or less than others. And we go, you know what, I will never do that with my kids. And in fact, the danger sometimes is then to do the very opposite and go to an extreme. And I mean, if you had an overly strict parent, the danger is to be overly permissive and not have any guidelines in your home. So, but that happens to us because of our bad memories that come from our parents. Now, there are 4 basic types of parenting we're going to talk about tonight, and just like the 4 basic personality types that we talked about last week, there can be a mix and a match, and some this and some that. I mean, no one is going to be purebred one or the other, but there's probably a general way that you parent, and there's kind of a general way that I parent. There was a study done at the University of Minnesota, Dr. Reuben Hill, and he says, okay, there's 2 primary factors in parenting. One is the issue of support. There are some parents that are very supportive of their kids. I mean, and some of them that are not very supportive of all. And I think in your notes, it just says that support is the ability to make your child feel loved. Some parents do a phenomenal job of that. Other kids don't feel loved at all. They don't feel the nurture. They don't feel the care that their parents may or may not have for them. The other factor in parenting is the issue of control. Control, as it says in your notebooks, is the ability of the parent to manage the child's behavior. Okay? The ability of the parent to manage the child's behavior, and there are some parents who do a very good job of managing their children's behavior, and some not at all. Kids run wild, they basically do what they want to do. And now let's understand, I mean, if your child is 4 and they're misbehaving in the grocery store, you have much more control than if they're 16, right? I mean, so cut yourself some slack. Don't think that you need to control your teens at 16 in the same way you did at 4, and we'll talk about that a little more in one of the other sessions. But these are the two primary factors: the factor of support and the factor of control. Now, we're going to break these down, and I'm going to talk to you about the 4 different styles of parenting that emerge in these 4 quadrants. And as I tell this story, I want you to kind of think back to your adolescent days and ask yourself, how was I parented? Come on in. Welcome. All right. First of all, there is the authoritarian parent. There's the parent who is very much on control, but very low on the support side. And basically, they're the parent that says, you know what? You are going to do it my way, and I don't care how you feel about it. Okay? This is the crack the whip parent. Shh, get in line, because I am in charge, and you are going to do what I say. There's the neglectful parent. This parent has low control and low support, and basically their issue is, hey, don't bother me, and you are on your own. So a neglectful parent will say, hey, I've got enough problems of my own, so you do what you want to do, but if you get in trouble, it's on you. Don't come crying to me. Often, parents that are neglectful long-term or for a short season, it's because of other stuff that's going on in their life. So, for example, if your parents during your adolescent years went through a divorce, my sense is that they were so emotionally consumed by other things that they had very little energy to give you much support because they're feeling so horrible, or very little ability to control because they are just emotionally wiped out. They just didn't have it for you. Another group of people who are neglectful would be people who are struggling with addictions. So if I'm an alcoholic and I'm consumed with when I'm going to get my next drink and how I'm going to do what I want to do to satisfy my needs, am I thinking about my children and their need for nurture and control? No. And so I am a neglectful parent. So addictions, emotional devastation, other things can cause a parent to be neglectful. So that's the you're on your own. We have the crack the whip parent and you're on your own parent. Then there's the permissive parent. The permissive parent has very little control, but they are so supportive. They are their kids' cheerleaders. They're going to make them feel good. And they are the, what else can I do for you, honey, parent? Oh, you wrecked the car? No problem. We'll buy you another one type of thing. And that is a permissive parent. It's all about making the child feel good with very little control going on the other side. And then fourthly, not to be confused with the authoritarian parent, is the authoritative parent who somehow is able to balance the love and the guidance and the control that their child needs to grow up in a healthy way. So this is the love and limits parent. So we have the crack the whip parent, we have the you're on your own parent, we have the what else can I do to make you feel good parent, and we have the love and limits parent. Now, I want you to turn to that same person that you talked to earlier and talk to them and just say, okay, if I had to identify which quadrant my parents were in, it would be this, and this is what I remember about growing up in that home. So, for example, my parents, I was probably just south of this line right here. Very high control, high expectations, short accountability, always expecting my behavior to be the best, but not much support. So, for example, there was a situation when I was in high school, and I just really disagreed with the way my parents were handling it, and I knew that I had an uncle And Lori, you know my Aunt Betty, but my Uncle Glenn was much more supportive of his kids than my parents were. I go, you know, why can't you be more like Uncle Glenn? Oh, you don't say that to a lion mother. The response was, if you want to go live with Uncle Glenn, I will make the phone call and you start packing your bags. In other words, you're going to do what we want you to do, and I don't care how you feel. And that was kind of my life growing up. What was your life growing up? What was going on in your home? Talk about that. Okay, sounds like the plane is landing here. Let's talk to each other. Just out of curiosity, how many of you here tonight, I better go back, huh? How many of you here tonight say, you know what, I think I grew up in a home that was in this quadrant, kind of the authoritarian. Anybody? Okay, we got some hands? All right. Can one of you be brave enough to tell us what that felt like as a kid? What did that feel like? Yes.
As a kid, it felt like I was in Vietnam.
Vietnam! Oh my gosh!
As a kid, okay, so this is 6 years, so right? So as a kid, when my dad got home from work, he would try to find us, and we'd have, well, he gets a little break to do some homework, but we'd get 2 hours every night where he would just yell at us for 2 straight hours about homework.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Not only authoritarian, but kind of abusive, too.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yikes. Okay. Somebody else grew up in a home like that. I want to kind of share their experience. Yes?
Yeah, well, we were 8 altogether. And my dad said, you do all the disciplining and taking care of how they're going to grow up. So his thing was just work and rest for another day's long day of work. So my mom was like, 8 kids. I mean, 3 of them were from a previous marriage with their mom died. So it's like, that's it. Everybody gets it. You're in charge of each other. One messes up, you all get it. And she told us all the rules. And even being in, Mexican culture, we couldn't be out in the backyard. The girls couldn't be out in the backyard. Had to be inside so that no one would see you with their, different kind of eyes. So you have to, pretty much be in jail. It was jail until college.
Jail until college. Okay, we have Vietnam back here, and we have jail right here. Oh my gosh. Okay, enough jail and Vietnam stories. Bad though, right? I mean, that doesn't feel good to be in a home like that. How about, okay, you guys, how about a neglectful home? Somebody go, you know what, it wasn't there for me. Okay, somebody tell us what that felt like. Yeah.
I grew up with alcoholic divorce. They divorced when I was 5. Alcoholic mom, alcoholic dad. They were so into their own needs, it wasn't there. But actually, I'm liking it compared to what these two stories are.
This is better than that.
But I was sharing that. Typically, I had grandparents who stepped in to come in and kind of, so they were on the permissive side, but I respected those boundaries only because I appreciated it. Because they were the ones who were my cheerleaders, and not the neglectful mom. It wasn't until now, last 10 years that we really actually had a relationship.
Wow.
And appreciating my daughter, making sure I ran the other way. I'm never going to be like you.
Okay. You're going to parent in reaction too. Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. Thank you. That's a tough story. You had it all, didn't you? on the negative side. Wow. Well, God bless you. I trust that your kids are benefiting from some of the pain that you experience in that. And bless your grandparents for stepping up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Somebody else, neglectful home. Yes, yeah.
I feel like an orphan, even though I have mom and dad, but dad was working 500 miles away from home. I don't remember he ever being home. And then when I was 7 years old, my mom left us to be with him. And then my sister turned 17, she left because she got married. And then when my brother turned 17 or 18, he got a job, he went away.
How did that feel for you?
Feel like.
Did you feel sad, neglected,
No. I'm
unvalued?
glad that my mom didn't come, because when she come, it would be a lot of commotion.
Really? Like Vietnam or jail, maybe? Or
No, it's more like a commander, like
yeah.
dusting, cleaning, cooking, and I felt so guilty because I was wishing that she'll leave soon.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so neglectful homes bring their sad sides and maybe some comforting sides too, but tough. How about the permissive parents? How many of you had permissive parents? Come on, get your hands up there. All right. What was that like? Yes.
Well, actually, I was telling my partner here that it's interesting. It depends on your parents. I had a father who was an authoritarian, and then because mom would do what dad wanted, then they become neglectful because dad wanted this. Then all of a sudden there's no attention, and mom feels guilty that we were neglectful. Then they become permissive. So there's this vicious cycle of I'm going to boss you around, I'm going to neglect you, and now you can do what you want.
Oh wow.
I'm so confused.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. But that does happen. There are those pendulum swings and compensating and trying to make up. Okay. Somebody else? Yeah. Rob.
My mom was very permissive. She loved us. She wanted us to be happy. That was her goal. She didn't want to have very many rules. My dad and her disagreed on their parenting style, so he sort of didn't really parent. I mean, he was there for us if we wanted, if we needed help with something, or you do some things with us,
But she was in charge of parenting.
parenting, yeah.
Oh, okay. And so how did that feel to have a permissive mom that was very supportive, just wanted you to be happy?
I mean, it was fine overall. I think it was harder. I mean, I was the second out of four, and I think it was harder for the younger ones
Because
well, both my dad's health declined about that time, as they started in elementary school, and they passed away when they were old. The youngest one was like 16. But just the rules, and maybe they needed more rules or something to keep them in line. I think it was more on their personality with that kind of parenting.
with the younger kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so the older kids kind of stayed within some boundaries, but the
Right.
younger kids kind of ventured out a little too far sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting thing about permissive and all that. In the 70s, when it was all about love and peace and making people feel good, there were some people that were working with students, elementary students. They go, you know what? Look at these chain link fences around all these schools. These kids must feel like they're in prisons, like they're restricted, like, they're caged in. We just need to take the fences down. Very interesting thing happened. When the fences were up, the kids would play around the perimeter of the playground next to the fences. When the fences came down, guess what the kids did? They clustered into the middle. Because it is scary not having boundaries. I mean, when I was a high school pastor and teaching them about, being good children and, honoring their parents, some of them were bagging on mom and dad. I said, okay, what if mom and dad had no rules at all? What would that be like? Whoa, that wouldn't be good at all. So even your kids recognize the value of guidelines and of some degree of control. How many of you would say you had the authoritative parents? Pretty good balance between control and, okay, tell us what that felt like. Putting you on the spot.
It felt good. I felt like I knew where the boundaries were. I knew what the expectations were. But yeah, I knew that my mom loved me.
Yeah.
So she wasn't like a warm, fuzzy person, but I knew that there was love there. So it felt good.
Good. I saw another hand or two back here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I knew what was expected, and I would even go so far as to say, like, as a teenager, when I saw friends really kind of doing some crazy things, oftentimes I really believe that what stopped me was I knew it would disappoint my parents.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to disappoint my parents because
Yeah.
I respected them.
Wow. Good for you. And good for them
Yeah.
to create that environment. We're going to talk about that at the end of the session, about respecting and honoring your parents and what significance that brings to this whole thing. Okay.